World Children's Day, celebrated on November the 20th, marks the occasion of the UN Assembly adoption of the Declaration of the Rights of the Child in 1959 and later in 1989, the Convention on the Rights of the Child. Today, we welcome Naren Maynard, Probation and Child Protection Officer at Probation and Child Protection Services, to give us the details on their week of activities. Good morning, Naren. Did I see your name correct?
Yes.
Oh, righty.
Good morning,
And welcome to Good Morning, SKN.
Yes, and thanks for having me. It's my first time here, actually.
Oh, it's our pleasure having you. Inclusion for the child. What would you say this message conveys?
I'll start as simple as a family.
Okay.
Whenever there's decisions to be made within the family, but again, this depends on the level of maturity of the child and the relationship between the child and the parents. Children should be included in the decision making around the house. Okay. I know our culture is, we were socialized in a specific way where some of our adults think that a child don't have a say when they're in their house. Exactly. Children don't have rights, some would say. Yes. But the country signed off on the CRC, as you mentioned earlier, yes. And it allows for children to have that, the opinion has to be expressed.
Nice.
Yes.
All right, so we've signed off on it. In terms of educating the public, do you think it requires a mindset shift to now include children in decisions that they've not been involved in and everything else that goes along with the CRC?
Yes, it requires continuous education, because some of our people are still, we are quote unquote stuck in our ways, and we don't accept change easily, all right? So yeah, it's a continual process of educating people, creating this awareness, getting children involved more in every single facet of our community and building our community. So it will probably go on and go on and go on until people get it.
So what are two of the enshrined rights in the convention that your department is actively promoting on behalf of our children?
Say that again?
What are two of the rights enshrined in the convention that your department is actively promoting on behalf of our children?
This same one, a right to express themselves and to have an opinion. There ain't any specific way. We try to promote all of them as much as possible, actually. Right to have an education, you know, in our society, education is free. A right to have medical care, a right to have an identity, have a name, being able to know how to identify yourself. I guess it depends on how you're socialized and your cultural background and stuff like that. So there's no one right we try to be all-inclusive for the total development of our children and to educate everybody. There's a lot of rights. There are probably like 50-something of them. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Is there any one in particular that comes to mind that might be the most challenging to sensitize the public about? I take that as a no.
He's thinking.
I can't think of any, actually. I can't think of any.
All right, so let's talk about the poster. We know that there are some activities that it lists for World Children's Day. Tell us about a few.
Yeah, most of the activities are just to create awareness. So we're going to be on radio stations across the island. On Sunday, we had church service at the, I forget the name of the church. The big church down in Kiel.
Antioch Baptist?
No, the other one. Rivers, yes, Rivers of Living Christian Center. There was a presentation by the minister, and then most of it is radio presentations, radio interviews. However, there will be a parenting workshop on Thursday, and Friday is dubbed as our Wear Blue Day. Blue is the color that signifies the fight against child abuse. So we are encouraging everybody, Tukmun and Sam, as you would say, to wear blue on that day to signify the fight against child abuse.
How does the Probation and Child Protection Services teach children about their rights, or at least disseminate what those rights are in a way that children can understand?
Okay. One of the things we want to get back to, actually, because we used to do it, is going to the schools more often and have presentations. Very often, the schools would invite us to their parent-teachers meetings. So most of the time, we speak to the parents to educate them, because they're the ones who should actually know these things. And we hope that they would instill them to their children. We also go into the schools. Sometimes they would want us to speak maybe to a specific grade, I guess, depending on the level of maturity, maybe the grade 6, maybe the grade 5, just depending, and we go and we have presentations. Sometimes we go there, we have presentation in the assembly, when the assembly at mornings, we have maybe 50 minute presentation and educated them about certain aspect of child abuse or certain aspect about their rights and knowing their rights. I think a lot of our children know very well what their rights is, so they're using it to their advantage sometimes. So if their parent was to come and try to hit them with something, they would say, no, I would tell my mom, I would make a report to probation, because they know they're educating themselves. So they're using it, some of them are using it to their advantage.
Yeah, nice. So what activity that you are having this week is most anticipated, would you say?
The Way Blue Day is something that we want to do every single year. The Way Blue Day just to create the awareness every time. I'm hoping that we can do it maybe more often throughout the year, so it could be continuously played in on the minds of our people. People are knowing what is going on. So the Way Blue Day is very important, I think, and also the whole idea of having a parenting workshop. Because I think that is one of our challenges. Co-parenting seems to be an issue in St. Kitts. In my experience, it is an issue, and it has become an issue to the extent where it's affecting our children, and parents don't seem to get it. They don't seem to get how the behave affect their children.
So what do you mean by that in terms of the effect?
Okay, mommy and daddy broke up. The relationship ended, okay? There was bitterness. Probably didn't end on mutual ground, so bitterness, and despite, as I said, would continue. So, mommy might say, yeah, prevent the child from going to see the father. That is not hurting the father, you know. That is actually hurting the child. I mean, it might be hurting the father not being able to see his child, but it's also hurting the child because the child has a right to spend time with his father, and vice versa.
Yes.
And those are some of the challenges we have. And even in the decision making, let me use another example. We tried to go to a specific school, and one parent decided, I'm going to move the child without consulting the other parent. So the father of the child, let's say the father of the child going to the school all the time, he gone there, the child is no longer there, no communication went to him to say that the child was moved. And in some instances, it's a private school, and the father was paying the school fee. So these are things that happens, you know?
Wow.
Yeah.
How many reports or cases do you experience in a day concerning children and their parents? Wow. That looks like a heavy question.
I would say about 10.
No, in a day.
Some of them ain't necessarily need intervention. Maybe sometimes just need to have a conversation. Some people call maybe just to get some advice on how to go about doing things and stuff like that. So I would say 10. I would say 10, on average 10.
Okay.
Well, since you brought it up in terms of calling and getting advice, how do people contact your department?
They can call our on-call number 24/7, 662-6833. An officer is on call every single day, every week. A different officer is on call. Or they can call the office line 467-1379, 467-1309.
Okay. Your Facebook page or any other thing they can go for
Yes, there's a
information?
Facebook page. Yes, the ministry has a Facebook page that can be easily accessed. Yes.
Okay. Wow.
All right, let's talk now about some of the other events that have been hosted throughout the year, because we're talking about a week of activities, but what else has been done, throughout the year to raise awareness about your department and the work that it's doing?
Okay, COVID kind of knocked us off a little bit. But normally during the Child Month March, we are very active within the Child Month March. We go around during the march and we give out little trinkets, little booklets, little stuff to educate people about the whole process and stuff like that. We normally have workshops as well with children, some of them including our delinquent children. We normally have one during Easter, and then we normally have one during the summer. Children who are at risk, maybe of committing some form of offense, maybe stealing, sometimes to the extent of murder. So if we know that they're at high risk, we will have sessions with them to try and deviate them from going along that road.
Can I interject here? How do you know that they're at high risk or even at risk? What do you?
We do assessments. We do family assessments where we go into the family. Like, okay, let me use an example. For example, the school call and say this child seems to be developing some abnormal behaviors, some unusual behaviors. So we nip it in the bud early, right? Because if that continues and we don't address it, then it becomes a bigger problem down the road. So we work hand in hand with the guidance counselors at the school. When they see these problems, small little problem, I call them at the time in children, it might be a bullying issue. We get called in and we work hand in hand in trying to curb that behavior before they get into these bad habits, which can result in severe offenses and so on.
We spoke about everything else, but we have not yet touched on the removal of the child from his or her normal place of residence. How often does that happen, and what causes it to happen, and how difficult is it to remove the child from their home?
Okay. It doesn't happen quite often. It's only happening in really extreme cases.
Okay.
Where we know the child's danger the child's life is in immediate danger.
Okay.
We move the child right away. So it don't really happen often. Maybe on average, 15 a year, maybe.
50 in a year?
1-5.
Oh, 1-5.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's always a challenge to move children from their natural home. It's always a challenge. We try, if, let's say, father abuses the child, for example, because the child lives with the father, okay? The next option will be, if we remove any child, you consider the mother, okay? As long as the mother is in a position to meet the needs of the child, we place the child here.
With them.
While
Okay.
the necessary work has been done as relates to the father, and if there's criminal charges need to be made, that is being done. If neither of the child's biological parents are in a position to, then we consider other relatives, an uncle, a grandmother, a grandfather, whatever the case may be. Outside of that family, then we have a foster care program where people volunteer to take in children that they don't have any relation with. So we have a list of foster parents. I think we have at least 50, about
nice.
50 of them who open up their homes to children who are less fortunate. So that would be the next route. Another option would be at the children's home. We have a relationship with the children's home, and they have been very, very helpful in this regard, especially taking children in emergency, depending maybe the time of the night, whatever the case may be, they quickly respond and assist us when we have to place the children immediately. Yeah. But we need a home. I think the government needs a home for children.
A bigger home than the children's home.
I'm not really bigger than the children's home, but we need a home that would cater to the needs and the proper intervention can be met with these children. Because some of these children, when we move them, they have maybe they went into a traumatic situation, the trauma from whatever abuse they went through. So they need the necessary psychosocial, the necessary counseling intervention they need away from their natural homes. They need it in an environment where they get here. And I think the government needs to create a home where that can happen, where a child can receive comprehensive care and evaluation when faced with this kind of traumatic situation. Because child abuse can be very traumatic to children.
Indeed.
I'm glad that you've made that suggestion publicly, so somebody's heard you.
Yeah, I've been making this call for some time now. So.